Good, beautiful morning, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Shortcuts for Your Soul. Today I have with me a group called The Ascended, and the message has been pretty consistent over the last 7 years. And it's simply this, that emotion organizes your reality. That's the primary message that they've been offering to people, that emotion organizes your reality. But they wanted to add another layer to that. What is it that is organizing your emotion? And I found this very exciting to consider, that if your emotions are coordinating your reality, your experiences, what's you're happening to you, then what is it that's organizing your emotions? What causes you to have a certain emotion? Fear, love, joy, sadness, anger, anxiety, happiness. You cannot have an effect without a cause, and you cannot have a cause without an effect. And on this principle that we're speaking about today, your entire civilization and many, many other civilizations before this one have risen and fallen under this exact same principle of emotion. Societies rise and fail because of emotion. Your scientists might say no, knowledge and technology determines the survival of society. And we say it depends, of course, upon the nature and the quality of that emotion, that knowledge, that technology is driven by the function of your emotion. You need to understand this, that your emotions drive all of your functions. We've been saying this for many years, and some of you are actually beginning to hear now, and changes are beginning to occur. You've been acquiring a great deal of logic, a great deal of knowledge, evolving technology. And all of these things occur because emotional energy causes functions of action. Your desire for comfort and happiness, peace, your desire for power, lust, and greed. These different functions orchestrate and structure emotional energy to incline you to exhibit expressions of behavior, as emotion does indeed organize all of your behavior. The emotion of love organizes very specific behaviors. The emotion of fear organizes very specific behaviors. Deceptiveness, honesty are polarities of two different functions of emotion, one based in truth and love, the other based in fear, power, and authority. It is not very complicated. What you need to understand is actually very simple. And what you need to know is exactly what is it that causes you to have a certain emotion or to not have a certain emotion. And there are several layers of influence that can articulate and change, indeed restructure emotional patterns in your own mind, and therefore in what you will say or what you will do, as all functions of behavior require a quality of emotion. Every human function of behavior requires an articulable function of emotion. And whether you are conscious of that emotion or not determines whether or not you can be responsible for what is occurring or not. A fair number of humans are unconscious and reactionary to emotional energy and have lost awareness of their ability to orchestrate, monitor, regulate emotional function. Without the ability to regulate functions of emotion, then you become subjective to them, often demonstrating behaviors that appear to be uncontrolled, erratic, destructive, harmful, not because you would choose to be that way, but because many of the emotions you have are induced into you. If you can understand this, that many of the emotions that you have been induced to you by structures of thought imparted to you environmentally, that those that came before you set in place structures of social order, belief, ideology, and that these historical patterns of thought and action, behavior, orchestrated into your consciousness functions of emotional energy that determine the behavior of many of you. So in one sense, many of you did not have any choice about the emotions you were going to receive, but all of you have a will that enables you to change any function of belief and emotion. Belief and thought organize emotional function, and emotional function orchestrates what you do or do not, what you create or create not. If you do not understand that you have autonomy and authority over your own emotional energy, then you will simply be tossed about on the seas of life by those who will offer you thoughts and emotional inducements and cause you to behave in very precise and specific ways. Your great nightmares of civilization, your dictators, your heathens, those that would cause harm to others, have functions of thought that orchestrate very precise actions of behavior, which in turn induce the conditions of that society. The one you would call Genghis Khan had very specific structures of thought, which induced very precise, specific functions of behavior that he imparted to those around him, inducing fear in others through violence and aggression, bringing them into submission to his will. That same process is still going on today. That vast majority of you do not know how to assume proper autonomy and authority over your structures of thought because you depend upon the world to provide them for you. Many of you do not know that you can change the function of your emotion because, again, you depend upon the world to orchestrate the function of emotion on your behalf. The wonderful technology that you have available to you that allows you to communicate to each other instantly in physical time and space has, for a greater degree, imparted much fear and distrust and anger, rage, and secularism amongst you, causing animosity between you as species, as philosophies, as different structures of social systems. And you must understand that you have a very wonderful opportunity if you can liberate your awareness sufficiently enough to begin to moderate what thoughts you will allow to go through your mind, what you will accept or reject from other individuals. But it's very important you understand that you ultimately, as a sentient being that has come into a physical medium of expression, came for the purpose and reason to understand the function and practice of creation. That if you do not learn that you can exercise your individual function of creation, you can allow yourself to be subjugated to the functional acts of creations of those who would offer you thoughts, beliefs, and ideologies that may or may not be to your benefit, may or may be to your detriment. And many of you have not learned to make the distinction between that. A great number of you have accepted fear and anger, judgment as mechanisms of action. because all emotion will precipitate an action, whether you're conscious of that emotion or not. Our message has been very clear that there are functionally only two qualities of emotion in a spectrum of energy called emotion. That one spectrum is fear, the other spectrum is love. Each in the spectrum causes very precise and specific behaviors, actions, words. Functions of behavior and creativity are determined by emotional energy. And what then orchestrates emotional energy but thought, imagining, believing, orchestrate structures of emotion and therefore the function of behavior. This is a very simple chain of causation that if you are unable to evaluate, weigh, and measure your thoughts, then you will be subjective to what you might call uncontrollable urges and behaviors, and because you are not aware of your thoughts. And that's understandable, as the vast majority of you have acquired thoughts from this world without any regard for their meaning or effect. In fact, 90% of the thoughts in your mind are not even belonging to you. They originated with others. Your beliefs, whether you know it or not, were given to you. And that if they remain unexamined and unevaluated, then you will simply carry them out. Every thought of emotion, every thought induces a structure of emotional energy, which in turn orchestrates your function of behavior. If you cannot change thought, you will never be able to redirect the function of emotion into a new direction. The question, quite simply, is what then do I do to begin to correct my emotional energy? And the simple answer is mindfulness, thoughtfulness. Be aware of the nature and source of your thoughts. Evaluate. If you understand that thought becomes a function of form in your existence, then evaluating a thought as to its value, that you must determine that if you think something is a certain way, it will stimulate a very function of emotion that will cause a function of behavior. And that is a simple chain. Thought orchestrates emotion, which orchestrates function of behavior. That is the simple chain of creation. And the element of your awareness is the only aspect of your being from which you can examine your thought. Within the structure of thought and emotion, if you have identified with certain thoughts as this is who I am, and you have identified with certain emotions, there's no evaluative mechanism to make correction, although you always possess. In fact, you are the evaluative mechanism. You are that which can observe thought, observe emotion, and thereby begin to effect change in them. Or you can continue to depend upon the external world around you to fabricate what you will think and what you will feel. And the existing conditions of your life, whatever it may be right now, is indeed the function of the thoughts and emotions you currently possess. Your success or failure, however you define them, your happiness or misery, however you define them, are effects of the thoughts and emotions that you harbor within the structure of your individuality, your mind, your field, if you like. And your ability to change them remains with you eternally. You have the capacity to alter and change thought, to evaluate it, to know that a particular thought will indeed orchestrate a particular structure of emotion, which will indeed orchestrate a particular function of behavior. It's that simple, that chain of causation. But without yourself being aware that you can be aware of your thoughts and not subjective to them, without yourself being aware, that you can be aware of your emotions without being subjective to them, you cannot initiate your own individual function of change over them, and therefore will remain subjective to the thoughts and emotions that you currently harbor within your consciousness, many of which, as we have already said, have been given to you by the environment and remain unquestioned from the time your little ones were put in front of television sets or, well, now your technological devices. Whatever is coming into the system, particularly in your what you call your very young ages, in very particularly young years, there's no function of awareness developed sufficient enough to question thought or emotion. And so whatever's imparted to you from that moment of conception to around your 7th or 8th biological age sets in place very precise and even rigid structures of thought and emotion, unbeknownst to you. But you will certainly reap the benefit of them if they are good, and the discomfort of them if they are not so good. Between the ages of 7 and 25, you have the opportunity to begin to question and evaluate the thoughts that you have within your own mind. You have the capacity to alter and evaluate the thoughts and ideas that are being given to you by the environment, to be able to weigh and measure what the effects of those thoughts will be upon your own experiential reality. You cannot escape this simple truth that your thoughts orchestrate your emotions orchestrate your behaviors, and that the spectrum of a function of emotion or thought and behavior falls in the broad spectrum of love and fear. And that only you, as a sentient awareness, can, by an act of your will, change or modify the thoughts and emotions that you have in your possession. Or you default and allow the environment around you to determine what you will think and what you will believe. They are very bad people, you hear them say, and it feels very strong and very powerful. And now you accept that thought. And that thought creates very specific emotions. And those specific emotions determine functions of behavior. And let us understand that there are what you call bad behaviors, and there are bad thoughts, and there are good behaviors, and there are good thoughts. Therefore, you have good people and you have bad people because the structures of thoughts and emotion align to that. Thoughts and emotions always align to functions of behavior. Always, without exception. Deceptiveness is an example of where thought and emotion can be presented in very specific ways with an underlying intention. So you can, and many of your politicians are quite expert at being able to orchestrate deceptiveness. They can give you very clear ideas and beliefs about things that sound very convincing to you, but then you find yourself living in what you call a social welfare system that does not understand the laws of abundance or prosperity, but rather preys on the suffering of others for the benefit of a few. Many of you have not questioned what you've been told, that you've been given convincingly to believe is true. Many of you do not question it. You simply accept the emotional fluidity of thoughts that go unexamined. And that fluidity can be good or evil. But many of you in positions of authority that do understand this chain of causation have used it very well to your benefit. And some of you have used it for the benefit of others. And some of you have used it for the benefit yourself and the detriment of others. But the chain of causation of creation is universal, irrespective of what position any individual is in this function of creation. That thought orchestrates functions of emotion, which orchestrate functions of human behavior. And that only the sentient nature of your own awareness, your soul, your consciousness, can begin the process of evaluating the nature and quality of your thoughts. And that you can willfully make corrections in thoughts. that if you are persistent in the correction of thought, understanding this principle that thought does indeed structure emotion, then the function of this, well, your global practice of what you call positive affirmation might have a very, very beneficent effect upon your species if you understand the subtlety that thought does indeed create a movement of emotional energy, that if that thought is sustained and maintained with the awareness that it is structuring an emotional quality, then you can build a function of emotion up sufficiently that an act of creation can indeed unfold from you, and you can change your life. The statement, change your thoughts, change your life, requires that you be aware that you are able to change your thoughts and that you can do so consistently, knowingly, become cognizant, aware of what emotion a particular thought is generating. And that once you understand and become sensitive to the emotional manifestation of thought, then you begin to take back the mantle of creation over your life, but not before. Simply thought without the awareness and pairing to specific qualities of emotion, without that pairing, the function of creation is neutralized. You must understand to be able to effect a bonding of thought to a quality of emotion does indeed induce creation. And as we said, the function of being given certain qualities of thought under the guise of an emotional quality that is not truly representative, those who are deceptive to you can give you thoughts that sound and can induce feelings as if they were true when in fact they are not. So you be mindful of this. Many of your leaders around this world have been very deceptive to you over thousands and thousands of years. And so become very mindful of what is the underlying emotional architecture to a thought that you're being given. You are a sentient being that can be highly sensitive not only to structures of thought, but to nuances of emotion. And that your awareness of the nuances of emotion will indeed allow you to choose whether that thought is indeed sincere and real or whether that thought is deceptive. It is always the underlying emotion. But again, many of you are and have been trained by your systems of indoctrination, what you call your educational system, functions more as an indoctrination mechanism, inducing you to think and therefore believe and therefore feel in certain ways that may or may not be beneficial to you. And we're certainly not saying that your entire objective educational system is wrong, but that if any system of education seeks to guide you and direct you without guiding you and directing you to evaluate and question and weigh and measure sincerely and honestly, but simply accept something without question, well, then you have another problem. And many of your so-called systems of education simply state that this is true and you must not question it. You must learn to question everything, evaluate it, weigh it, measure it before you come to an acceptance of the structure of thought. Because once you accept the structure of thought, then you, whether you know it or not, accept the structure of emotion, which underlies and becomes an effect of that thought. And many of you must understand that there is not one act of behavior that is not based in a foundation of thought and a structure of emotion. Not one. You might think that, and this has been well studied by your clinical systems of mental health, that there are those that you say have no conscience. And we would say you nothing could be further from the truth. They are simply very clear about what their thinking is. So there's no deviation or question about their actions. They simply accept them as true, even though they're detrimental, false, and they will defend the illusion of their illusion. They will defend it because to them it is their truth, even though evidence would indicate otherwise. But until you reach that point where you are willing and able to deliberately and meticulously question and evaluate your own thought process, independent of the assertive influence of others, including us, that you must become ridiculously intimate in your individuality, that you question, weigh, and measure what is given to you to consider very carefully. Because right now you have this mechanism of that which is true is made false, and that which is false is made true, occurring on this planet right now. Many of you have been taught to believe that that which is false is true, and that which is true is false. And thus is an example of where large numbers of individuals have not questioned, weighed, or measured within the context of their own evaluative capabilities, that your own ability to think, weigh, measure, and reason is often deferred to others articulating that process for you. Your conventional education system very effectively circumvents the function of reason and supplements it with simply obedient acceptance of what you're being told. And with that function of obedient acceptance, there's no function of reason. And therefore, structures of social and geopolitical movements can become very detrimental, indeed, very damaging to society. Without the function of the individual in its fullest capability, you will create systems of social structures that will ultimately bring your civilization down like so many others before you. This is not a threat or a doom gloom, just a simple function of the logistics of what happens when structures of thought and emotion become prevalent in a particular spectrum. That is, if a structure of thought and emotion are in the predominant spectrum of fear, then there will be a decay in your civilization. If the function of thought and emotion is predominantly in the spectrum of love, then there will be a constructive process in your civilization. And the quite simple adage of it, by your fruits you shall know them. In other words, by what is happening, you shall know what is the dominant function of thought behind what's occurring. If you see chaos, if you see violence, if you see greed, it is very easy to understand that the structure of thought and the underlying emotional function of that thought is fear. If you see growth and happiness, prosperity, and well-being, well, then you can be rest assured that the structure of thought and emotion is in the spectrum of love, that function of positive energy. Again, each and every human soul on this dimension, irrespective of your existing conditions, you are designed to have free will. And you may surrender that will by allowing others to subjugate you to theirs, but that is not a very effective way of running a civilization, as the most profound civilizations that have existed on this planet understood and recognized the extreme importance and value of the function of the individual over the function of the collective, but that the rational function of an individual will indeed embrace and sustain the healthy function of the collective. But the function of your individual reason, which is your awareness, your capacity to evaluate, to weigh, to measure, without that function being effectively and properly utilized, you essentially have a society of a few leaders and a bunch of followers. And a great civilization comes about rarely, but it comes about because the sanctity and the function of the individual is held in great and high regard. Assisting an individual in articulating their uniqueness, their own capacity to think, to weigh, to measure, is what gives your civilizations innovation and wonder. Art and culture are functions of individual expressions across many individuals. So what we have said is very simple. whatever is causing your emotions is what causes your functions of behavior. And if you understand that you as awareness can alter the causes to your emotions, that you can quickly and easily begin to change your life for the better. Do not surrender your faculty of awareness so easily to others. When you surrender your faculty of thinking, what you will believe, what you'll think, therefore what you will feel as if you are isolated and alone and trapped in a series of conditions that you will feel like you have no control over. But the moment you begin to assert your own will, to believe in new possibilities, to believe that there are other ways than the ways you might be seeing, that you can change your thought, alter the course of your emotional energy, therefore alter the course of your experiential reality, because your physical dimension as a sentient species, your physical dimension is a creative output of your thoughts and the emotions that those thoughts bring functionally into the behavior of your body. And that statement, what you believe, so it shall be, is ultimately the greatest truth that you can live by. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Someone said, your teaching has really helped me, William. Something magical happened today as I was focusing on love. Who helped me today? I got Archangel Gabriel for you immediately, Kira. Yes. Yeah, Jesus and Gabriel are very, very close together. In fact, when you understand how, breaking generational trauma, teachings, beliefs have to start with you. Absolutely, Cindy. Absolutely. Great consideration. Hi, Loretta. Sending love and light to you too, darling. Does Indian gooseberry detoxify the physical body? I've never heard of Indian gooseberry before personally. If I tune into their energy, they're saying, I'm just getting 0. So I'm taking that as a no. What was the lesson of my dream last night? Think about it. What was the flavor of emotion that your dream gave you? Because if you understand that the nature and source of many of your dreams might not originate with your own thinking, you've been given much, you've been told to think and believe. Many of you have been taught to believe and think a certain way. And much of what is happening in your life is because of what you've been taught to think and believe. Thought orchestrates emotion. Emotion orchestrates functions of behavior. Many of you are simply accepting thoughts and beliefs from others without questioning them. And your little ones are the most amenable to this process. Those little tiny ones, which you call children, are most amenable to what thoughts you would offer them. If you believe in a certain thought that may not be actually true, but you give it to a child, they will accept what you offer them as the truth, even if it might be false. And you will think because they accepted what you said that it is true. And you're now caught in the loop of your own ignorance because you convince someone who is subjective to you to believe a certain thing. With the little ones, there's no function developed sufficiently enough for reason for them to evaluate the thoughts that you would offer them. So we would ask you that question again, dear one. What is the dominant emotion to that dream? And what is the source of that emotion? You must understand both the influence that you have over the structure of emotional energy that you can articulate into creative expression, but you must also understand that the world around you has given you thoughts, given you ideas that structure emotional experiences that cause functions of reality for you to be living in right now. What you are living in right now is the overall structure of the thoughts and emotions that you hold on to inside your mental, physical, architectural system, your bioelectrical system holds those thoughts and emotions in them that have been given to you. If they remain unquestioned, they will remain unchanged. And if anything of a thought or an emotion remains unchanged or the same in your system, then things will remain as they are in your life. You must learn to change the function of thought to learn to change the function of emotion. One precedes the other. But evaluate also what you've been taught to believe. Someone projected fear onto me. I meditated, projected my field, but it still lingers in my thoughts. Okay, with a fear that you have inside you, that this is the way, yeah, well, so they're telling me to tell you this. When you've been given a fear before you could think, especially during early childhood, if you've been imparted with anger, aggression, manipulation, control, power, fear, then you might just have these feelings. You don't know, why do I feel this way? We call those unconscious feelings, but you're aware of it, but you don't know why that feeling is there. So when you have an emotion like that, fear, even if it's been stimulated by somebody else, you don't worry about the other person. You approach the fear with a change in the structure of thought. When you approach an emotion with a change in the structure of your thought, then the change in the structure of your thought reorganizes the emotional field. So turn to your fear right now. Just turn to your fear right now. Get close to that fear. Go to where it lives in your body. Turn to it and just communicate to that fear. No matter how afraid you are, I'm willing to love you. Just communicate that thought to your fear. No matter how afraid you are, I'm willing to love you. And if you have done that directly into the fear with that structure of thought, then you'll feel a subtle or obvious change in that structure of fear. Usually it's dissolution begins to occur. It begins to decompile because your function of a thought reorganizes the electromagnetic structure of the emotion from one state to another. As emotions cannot be created nor destroyed, they can only be changed from one state to another. Oh, great consideration. Let us know, Luminary, what happened to the emotion when you did that. Hi. So what did you mean with that statement specifically for this live stream? Specifically talking about trauma. Even trauma. Listen, I've suffered some pretty severe traumas in childhood at different points in my life, both inflicted upon me by the environment and inflicted upon myself by my own ignorance. So in terms of trauma, trauma is still a foundation of emotion. Once you understand how to change the structure of emotion, you'll change the effects of the trauma immediately. You know, you look at something like PTSD, where a trauma is stuck in the body, it's memorized by the body. It's still, the trauma is held in the body as an emotion. Once you can change the function of the emotion, you'll change the structure. And that does not mean getting rid of memory. I still remember the traumas I went through, but I can look back on them. I don't feel angry or jealous or afraid or disappointed or helpless. I feel grateful and appreciative and happy about what I went through because it gave me some really beautiful understandings about how to be a better person, how to help others. We've also gone through that trauma. But once you learn how to change the function of emotion, you will change your life. Hi. Yes. Oh, you're very welcome, Cindy. You're very welcome. Why is humans controlled to believe that some humans are autistic? Well, understand autism. Again, I'm not a medical professional or medical doctor, but I've had a conversation with my guides and angels about autism. And what they've told me is in cases of autism, which is a fairly recent phenomena, in the last 60 years, 80 years. It's a fairly recent phenomenon. I'm not going to get into what they've told me about what it is, but what's happened is something has occurred in the physiological structure to alter the way the electromagnetic body can operate. And many individuals in autism are actually souls stuck in the subconscious or subjective field of energy. And what does that mean? It means that they're not fully individualized as individual awareness. They are bound into the subjective fabric of consciousness, which is why a lot of autistic individuals are highly sensitive to the emotional moods and changes and shifts around them, because they don't just react to physical conditions. They feel emotional, energetic, and thought structures very, very intimately, but they don't have the individual awareness necessarily to affect an alteration or change in that subjective field of thought and emotion. So they're basically subjective to the unconscious flows and eddies of everybody around them. And again, in my conversation with them, they said that could even be ameliorated, and there's ways of building energetic, emotional, and psychological bridges for individuals if you understand how to interact with the unconscious psychology of the individual being affected by that condition you'd call autism. Learning how to interact with them on the subjective, unconscious levels of existence is where you can encounter their individuality and assist them in elevating themselves up, as well as removing some of the elements of the environment that have been inflicted upon these individuals, as there have been things that have been given to individuals that have caused the detrimental functions of biology to occur, to affect their neurological psychology and their capacity to individualize correctly. I think I'm going to ask you guys to leave it there. You're very, very welcome. Welcome. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Remember to like, subscribe, share, follow. I know I've been shadow banned on YouTube, and I know I've been shadow banned on TikTok, and have been for a few years now. But the message keeps going out. So this channel depends completely on who does get here to share it out, make other people aware of it. My life has been trauma-based. I still live from love. Wonderful, Cindy. That takes a very awake mind to be able to differentiate between the self as awareness and the body, mind, and emotions as instruments that awareness uses in creation. That makes the best distinction. Wow, that is the best autistic explanation perspective. They have gifts like speaking into plants. Yes, they do, because they are in the subjective field more than the objective field of consciousness. And there are different, and I know from my own personal studies that there's a spectrum of autism that they call low functioning and high functioning. There's no such thing as low functioning. There's just a different degree of function. If you say low and high functioning, what you're saying is more conscious or more unconscious. That's really what low and high functioning means. One is bound more in the unconscious spectrum. One is more bound in the conscious spectrum. One is more aware. One is less conscious. That's the difference in the spectrum. Listen, all this information you're hearing is coming through me from my guides and my angels. I'm a spiritual medium. And over the last 7 years, I've been slowly learning how to get my own ego out of the way to allow their information to come to you in the purest form that they can offer it. And to that end, my personal mission is to help shift human collective unconsciousness. Notice what we're saying, help shift human collective unconsciousness from fear to love. That's my raison d'etre for this lifetime. Hello. You're very welcome. She started crying. Luminary 222. That crying you're feeling is that aspect of the self that was hurt, that recognizes that you now love it. If more people understood that the way you can interact with your emotions through structured mechanisms of thought, you can shift your emotional state rapidly from fear, from anger, from guilt, from shame, from depression, from anxiety. You can shift your emotional energy very quickly if you understand how to interact with that structure of energy, which is emotion, differently than you habitually have been trained to. And stop feeding your mind with TV shows and movies that induce fear in your mind, that feed your mind to have fear in it. Watch what you let go in your mind. If you want to begin to liberate yourself from your suffering, then stop letting things in your mind that induce it. Watching shows like The Walking Dead and Games of Thrones and these things that download fear, download violence, download greed, download confusion, download insanity into your mind, you will let that. Stop it. Get away from popularism in the form of entertainment, because most of it is designed to manipulate you into a certain state of being. And if you ever wonder where the woke movement came from, or why people behave like craziness sometimes, watch what they're putting out through television. Watch what mass media communications is emotionally contributing to you. What thoughts do they give you? Because if you're not, and remember the conventional, I'll stop. Sorry, then I'm going to stop. They're asking me to stop going down that road because it's a road that, well, we usually reserve it for our Patreon meetings, right? Or our classes. We get into some really deep discussions when I'm channeling the Ascended Masters during classes. Well, hello there, Morton. Good to see you. Hi. I felt warm after saying I love you no matter what. That warmth is a functional shift in the emotional energy. It's a functional shift in emotional energy. And they do not teach and they do not want to teach people how to change their own energy. They want to control your energy. That's why you've got anti-ice and pro this and anti that, because those are all people that are emotionally manipulated and controlled by structures of thought. Every social, political, ideological structure in this world is based in a function of thought orchestrated by certain individuals. You know, football games, hockey games, lots of fun sometimes, but they're structures of thought organized into structures of functional emotions, which are organized into structures of behavior. There's not one function of the human creative process, our civilization, that is not determined, like nothing. Nothing is not determined by our thoughts and emotions. Our thoughts and emotions orchestrate everything. Our human civilization, every facet of it, right from the Aboriginal tribe and to the most sophisticated modern technological civilization, every spectrum of human experience is a manifestation of the dominant thoughts and emotions that we structurally install into our bodies. Because emotion organizes behavior, thoughts organize emotion. The soul is meant to organize thoughts, but most souls are identified with their thoughts or with their body or with their emotions, and therefore think, feel, and believe they don't have any choice. Got to go along with the crowd. You don't have to go along with the crowd. If you understood the wonder of your consciousness, the uniqueness of your soul, my gosh, what a wonderful world. Jesus brought that world to us. The uniqueness of individuality driven by the profound function of love was the ultimate freedom. Love is the ultimate freedom. But most people don't. Most people think love is sex or love is food or love is a thing. Love is not a thing. It's a quality of energy. And Jesus was the first one to bring the possibility of a society functioning from love in modern times. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, Eden, many of these former civilizations you've heard about were founded originally in love, but got corrupted over time by individuals that decided they could enjoy more power and glory at the expense of others, right? Jesus brought forth a civilization of people that would love one another, but there's no power and control over others from love. No need to. But if you want great power over others, then you need to have control and power, which is fear. Hello, Rainbow Magus. Thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate it. My question is above under user Rainbow Patty Gamer. Okay, let's see. Rainbow Patty Gamer. Let's see if we can find you. There you are. Question. Good morning, William from Australia. Hello, Australia. Funny how I tune in and hear things related to what I'm going through. Struggling with a friend at the moment, and if they are genuine friend or just someone I enable. This is a very good question. If I tune into your situation, if I tune into your field, by the way, mediumship is something that must be practiced. And a lot of people don't understand that we are functionally all able to be mediums. Your awareness is capable of moving from different points of time and space than just being in your body. Mediumship is a skill like learning, just like learning to walk or talk or how to speak or learn a language. Mediumship is a skill that must be developed. It allows you to gain access to realms of information that are not readily available normally through the five physical senses, but which can affect and influence the physical world. But if I tune into your energy, someone is saying to me, let trust be earned, not freely given. Whoever's saying this, they're choosing. I'm speaking their words a little. They're saying, let trust be earned, not simply given. They wanted it to land like that. I said it in the way my body said it, but that's the way they wanted it to land for you, right? Trust must be earned, not freely given. Wow. Thank you for that. And thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate it. It helps the channel. Every little bit helps. Want to heal and clear this within me. If you've got, hi, is that Jade? Is that you, Jade? Want to heal and clear this within me. He is mirroring. I know it's, hang on, let me see this here. Have been single and recently have been around someone that I am strongly drawn to spiritually. I see that we have the same wounds, and it seems like trauma bonding. Well, his actions are not 100% respectful. So I think that message was also for you, T. Martin, and it's such a delight to see you again. I'm glad you made it back. And I hope you'll go back, all of you, like this video when it's completed. It will not be on TikTok. I might take some shorts from it and put them up on TikTok and other platforms. But if you want to see the full transmission from them, go to my YouTube channel, and in the live section, you'll see this video. And the video is entitled, Emotion is Organizing Your Reality. What organizes your emotion? Remember that. So wonderful to see you. Yeah, love you too, darling. It is so important that you understand that thought literally does organize your emotional qualities. It literally organizes your emotional energy. And most of the thoughts you have are not even yours. They were given to you by the environment, by your parents, by your friends, by your family, by your educational system, by TVs, by movies, by books. And there's nothing wrong with all those things, provided you have an awareness that can evaluate them as to their merit and benefit or detriment to you. Most educational systems teach you not to question, just to simply accept and regurgitate. There's no thinking or reasoning, just to accept what you were told. You must encourage yourself to question thoughts as to what emotion that thought will create. Because belief and emotion are kind of one and the same thing. Thoughts structure the energy of emotion. Thoughts repeated become belief. Hi, thank you so much for that. Yeah. We've got our upcoming masterclass 102 Liberation. It starts in just a few weeks from now. go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com. Check out Masterclass 102, where you will interact with the Ascended Masters who will literally give you the opportunity to understand how to change your emotional energy from fear to love. They'll teach you how to access emotions in your body where they're trapped from your past and even from past lives, because people can carry emotions from past lives into this life. And they'll show you in the lessons that you'll experience how to identify, recognize, and notice where those emotions are, and give you the formula for changing the emotions from one state to another. And so Masterclass 102 Liberation begins February the 28th. So you got a couple of weeks to go. Come and join us. Sign up. Don't waste any time. It's one of our most powerful and most effective courses that we've ever taught. We've seen so many people heal generational trauma, decades of trauma, long-term anxiety, depression, healed, because it's not a complex process. When you understand, if you know how to put a puzzle together, it doesn't matter what the puzzle looks like. The reason they're saying those words about the puzzle, listen, every human being is like a puzzle. And once you understand how the principle of a puzzle is, you can put all the pieces together. Once you understand the pieces that make up what you are as a sentient being, your body, your mind, your emotions, your thoughts, your soul, your divinity, when you understand the parts of yourself, when you put them together correctly, your life will begin to function holistically, organically, divinely. And you need to gain the knowledge and the experience to know how to do this, because there's very few things in this world that will teach you that truth. There's systems that will teach you how to make money, teach you how to be rich, teach you how to be famous, but they will not necessarily teach you how to be happy, right? And there's lots of rich and famous people that are very, very unhappy. Boy, lots of rich and famous people have done a lot of evil things that are about to be very unhappy. But what you sow, you shall also reap. But our Masterclass 102 will give you, they'll give you, my guides and angels, the Ascended Masters will give you the functional tools that you need to, in the simplest way, heal, like I said, decades of trauma. Release old emotions from your body. Begin to understand and remember who you are. Not who you've been taught to think you're supposed to be, but who you really are. You're a soul. They'll teach you. They'll show you. You'll experientially learn that. So you've only got a couple of weeks left. I'm glad to have you back too. Thank you for that super chat, Rainbow Magic. Much love. Much love to you too. Sending more love. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I love that masterclass. So informational. I highly recommend it. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Jade. Sending you so much blessings. Your energy constantly pops in my mind, at least twice a month. I get that. What's energetically going on with you? So I know a lot of changes happen for you. Right? And remember, emotion is always orchestrating functions of behavior. There's no exception to that rule. Not one function of your physical world is unaffected by your emotional energy. Once you change your emotional energy, physiological function begins to change. And what you'll say and do changes. Yes, same. I've taken a few courses of Williams, and their lessons and experiences and friends have carried on ever since. I highly recommend taking the Masterclass 102. It's incredible. Changed my life. Gives you the tools to do this yourself anytime, anywhere. And it's really true. It really is. Thank you so much for sharing that. Brain development and cognitive development are affected, but their structure, even brain development, emotion orchestrates physiology. You can give emotion to other people. In clinical and classical mental sciences, they call it projection. You can project an emotion at people and affect them, affect their energy. Parents do it with their children all the time. They take little babies. Oh, hello, there, you're so cute. The baby starts smiling back at them. Your emotion is influencing your world. And before it influences your world, your emotion influences your body first and foremost. You'll learn all this in Masterclass 102. You'll learn and you'll experience how the relationship between you, your thoughts, your emotions, and your body and your world. That's why it's called liberation, because it will liberate you from the constraints of thoughts, memories, and emotions you might be burdened by, bound by, right? Because thoughts, emotions, and memories that you carry forward will affect you if you keep holding on to them. Why people can be traumatized for decades because they don't know how to let go of the emotion or how to change the emotion. Nobody teaches that in school. They don't teach your children how to heal their emotional field. They don't teach them in school. They don't even teach that in high school. They don't even teach that in university. How to heal anger, how to heal depression, guilt, shame, because they can be healed. We had somebody here earlier who just told her fear that she was going to love it, and it changed. The ridiculous simplicity involved in healing your mind and body is a wonder to behold and a gift you would not want to deny yourself. Go sign up today. It starts February 28th. You only got a couple weeks left. Hi. Oh, you're very welcome. Someone's saying, I've seen a huge aircraft in my dream right outside my window. Any particular message, please? Yes. Don't watch your world go by you. You must go on the journey of your life. This is what they're telling me to tell you. Stop watching other people's journey. Go on the journey of your life. There's an aspect of your life that you've never given life to, a part of yourself you never allowed to express. You need to give it life. Let it take flight. Lift that part of your life up. That which you denied yourself, you must give life to. Take flight. Raise it up. Don't let it go by. Someone's asking, can you ask questions in class? Yes. In the classes, you will be interacting with the teachers that are coming through me and the teachers that come through our other mediums, as we have 2 other mediums, and we have a holistic nutritionist that will teach you different ways of eating to change the vibrational state of your body. Because having a healthy body is conducive to embodying new emotions too. So we have uh, Rita, who's our holistic nutritionist. She's been a holistic nutritionist for over 20 years, well, 22 years now. And then we got Desiree Nicole Smith and Mary Hernandez, who are other practicing mediums that will guide you through the different components of the course. The course operates for 3 weeks, and it runs from Sunday to Friday, about an hour every day for 3 weeks, where you'll be exposed to new ideas and experiences that will let you liberate yourself from your past, even past life stuff. Like I said, we've had people that were under clinical care for decades with anxiety and depression that don't require it anymore because they've learned how to operate their own emotional energy. Hi, good to see you. Can spirit help guide me as to why I keep waking up with migraines in the middle of the night? Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's not to keep you awake, it's to help you to awaken. It's not to it's not to keep you awake, it's to help you to awaken. That's what they're telling me. Yeah, if you do ask a question here, understand I get a massive download of information all at once. And I just it would not be fair to everybody else because we run as many shows as we can free of charge to give people some of what is done in the classes and courses, because they said there had to be a free component to what we did all the time, because the knowledge was not simply to be secular, it was to be distributed as widely and freely as possible. And everything that you hear in the show is taught in the classes, but in the function of the classes, the level of intimacy and the intensity of energy and the the capacity for retaining and remembering is much higher in an intimate setting like a reading or a class. But yeah, so when you ask a question, I got a whole lot more information about those migraines than just the answer you were given. Again, I encourage you to book a one-on-one session with me if you want to get all the details about what is actually occurring for you and why, and then how to remediate, how to move beyond it. Hi, just got to make a correction here. So wonderful to have all you people here today. Beautiful. Thank you. Jade's making a comment here. I can feel primal childhood wounds coming up as the Valentine energy is present. Any messages for us about this? Thank you. Well, again, we can allow outside circumstances to initiate or induce emotional function. You're doing that right now by being here. And as we receive information from them that I impart to you, depending upon how you're receiving it, you can be induced into emotional energies. It's why in great group meetings where your focus is growth and human development, you can come out of that feeling really high because the function and focus of energy is for that purpose. So yeah, the conditions in which you are right now are favorable to shifting the emotional and physiological neuroarchitecture. However, if you depend upon the outside to be the source of that continuous transformation and change, then it will not be sustainable. Or if the outside system then changes, then the default function of your own awareness has been supplemented by something other than yourself. You must recognize that the function of your conscious awareness, becoming the orchestrating agent over both thought and emotion, will organize conditions of physical reality. Your own physical body and your environmental conditions are intimately connected to your thoughts and your emotions. And your thoughts and emotions are either dependent upon you being conscious and aware or subjugating your awareness to the environmental influences that are around you. If you subjugate yourself to the environmental influences, then at least make certain that those environmental influences are truly based in goodness and love and respect. But so many have surrendered their thinking mechanism to the environment exclusively and are struggling because of that. You were not designed to be a slave. You were not designed to not think. You were designed to learn to think so that you could learn to articulate the function of creation. Yes, to learn to articulate creation. I did a personal reading with William and have already seen it again twice. Each time I understand more deeply. So when you do get a reading, your reading is recorded for you to download shortly afterwards and again review it, because you will get information in that reading that you will not get anywhere else. You won't. It's amazing. It never ceases to amaze me. I have hundreds and hundreds of readings, and everyone is unique and different. And even people who come back many times for readings get different information. It changes their life further and further. It's an amazing and remarkable thing. And there's some really good conventional therapists out there, but they're bound by certain rules that restrict them from helping people break out of the paradigm of the matrix. Courses are 10,000% more powerful if this has been helpful to you. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. What you get in these live events is just like it's like one little grain of a sandy beach. Yeah, they really are. Thank you so much. Oh, you're very welcome, Jade. So nice to see you here. Such a delight. Yeah, absolute. Mindset can be shaded. Staying focused and centered is key. Absolutely, Cindy. Yeah, our bodies are huge indicators of good versus not good. Again, if you're subjective to external influences and not objectively aware enough to question or evaluate the thoughts that you're receiving, then you are subjective to those external influences, whether they're good or not. I, I've always felt weird going with the crowd. Yeah, it is weird going with the crowd unless the crowd is at a very exciting event, right? But your individual awareness has something unique to contribute to life. Every individual has the potential to contribute something unique and wondrous to the world. That's why we came as individuals. It's unfortunate so many are conformed to the external world as being the primary driver of your thoughts and behaviors. You must reclaim your autonomy and authority back. You must. Hi, Phoenix. I'd like to know if I'm doing the right thing to transmute the negative energy when I come across lower vibrational people. When you elevate your energy up, you will not see anybody as lower vibrational people. You'll simply be able to transform them. Literally, when you are in a high vibrational state, you do not see people as lower or lesser. You recognize that they're in an emotional loop that they're trapped in. And then that shifts you from judgment to compassion. And you want to shift from judgment to compassion so that they're not a lower vibrational individual. They're an individual that's trapped in an emotional spectrum that they don't know how to get out of. So if you extend the function of your love and grace towards them, you can indeed affect their energy and you can indeed lift them out. Your great master, Jesus, your great master, Buddha, your great master, Yogananda, your great archangels, Gabriel, Raphael, they all do these things. They all do these things. They raise the vibrational energy up. And it does not lower their vibrational down to do so. If your vibration is going down because you're lifting somebody up, well, that is ego. That is not truly the function of a soul executing the function of love, because the function of love understands its nature and it has no fear about being diminished. Love in its truest sense cannot be diminished. So become love. Someone says, the one-on-one session I had, I cried so much and fixed my relationship with my mom after that. Congratulations. It's nice to hear that. That's wonderful. I, Michael Jackson tried the same because the same entity has reappeared to Earth for decades. Yes, there are entities. There are. Not everyone deserves access. That's very true. It's by resonance and vibration, but that's another story. Hi. Hello, everybody. Karma Cycles, sending you light. Sending you light too. Wow, lots of coming. Saw that one. Hi, Loretta. I've been watching lives. Loretta's asking, I've been watching lives with, I should start putting questions up on screen so everybody can see them. Loretta's asking, I've been watching lives with quantum energy lately. Zioni, hybrid Andromeda, keeps coming with activations. I felt him I felt him in a couple of healing sessions. Messages: do not assign the function you are developing to another. Another can awaken a dormant skill in you, but they are not responsible for that skill. They simply have awakened it. You are accepting responsibility for the function, which makes that a function of your being, not a function of theirs. It's important you take responsibility for your own creative process. Others can awaken you to functions of being, but once you're awakened to it, it's your responsibility and it is your function of being, not theirs. I love that. That's cool. I like that idea. Hi. Hi. There is no lower and less than, but they also say that you have to look at there's a spectrum of emotion. In the spectrum of fear is a lower, denser vibration of energy that causes very precise and specific functions of behavior in humans. And there's a higher spectrum of energy called love that causes very precise and specific functions of behavior. It's important to understand that that spectrum has no particular line of demarcation. It's one spectrum of emotion that goes on eternally in what you call a positive direction or a negative direction. You were using those terms only for the purpose of your mind being able to articulate these concepts in a physical dimension. But the lower spectrum of energy called fear and the higher spectrum of energy called love function on the exact same principles. In other words, you can change the function of fear into a function of love, and you can change the function of love into a function of fear. Emotional energy is amenable to the influence of the individual asserting their will intentionally over it. I give someone, oh, I just love it. Becoming a medium has been one of my most exciting times in my life. It's just been such a wonderful thing to watch how things just can flow through you. And don't get me wrong, I've heard some really stupid stuff come through my body. They say that only happens when it gets caught up in my own egoic structures, right? So learning to get yourself out of the way is very important, but not losing consciousness ever. Um, Someone's saying, I am very isolated and started experiencing anxiety more. May I have a message from my guides? Hi. Well, I'm glad you're here for starters, Lauren. Welcome. You're not so isolated right now. And just take these words in and just close your eyes for just a moment, Lauren, and just take these words in. You are never alone. Within you, in your physical body, there is a light and a love that is beating your heart, the presence of the divine, waiting for you to recognize Him within you. Your fear is not from the isolation from humans. Your fear is the separation from your divinity. Go within. Seek Him within you, God. He is beating your heart right now. Bring yourself close to His wisdom of presence. And then you'll begin to find that eternal love and grace that is far more important than the secular specialness of human love. That does not mean that human love is not beautiful and wondrous, but that human love should be bound also with the function of God's love. Wow. Thank you for that, Lauren. Wow, that was really cool. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing the class again, Momo. Um, I've noticed for years my energy aggravates my son-in-law no matter how loving I am. Ah, so you're talking about manipulation. There's a difference between using love because you are using love, and there's a difference between using a function of emotion for manipulation. If you're using your emotion to manipulate somebody, it's not going to work. You can't fool. It's either real love or it's manipulation. And they're telling me that what you're doing is manipulative. If you want to really shift it, first embody love in yourself. Anytime you think of that person, wish them love and goodness, and truly wish them love and goodness without any expectation that they treat you a certain way. Because as long as you have an expectation that they should treat you a certain way because you're loving, well, you've got a problem. That's called manipulation. You cannot manipulate with love. Love forbids manipulation. manipulation is fear. So you are not actually articulating love, you're articulating control. That is what manipulation is. This is not a judgment against you, simply giving you awareness of what you're doing. A true function of love has no expectation of return because true love does not require something outside of itself to fulfill it, for true love is fulfilled in itself. Thank you. Hi. Hi. Can we stop negative energy attacks? Marcia, this is a great question, one worth an answer. So Marcia's asking, can we stop negative energy attacks? Settle yourself into the energy of love. Okay. If you're using, it ties right into what the question that was just answered before yours. If you're trying to use your energy to control events, that's manipulation for control and power. Love does not manipulate, it orchestrates. Love doesn't manipulate, it orchestrates automatically and spontaneously. If you want to shift the attacks of negative energy, when you feel negative energy in yourself, that is where you make the correction. All of this you will learn in the 102. Sign up for 102 Liberation. You'll learn how to shift, because once you change the function of emotion inside yourself, it begins to induce functional changes in your environment. Like when you drop a little pebble into a smooth pond, and you drop that pebble into it, the little rings that go out from it. When you establish a function of love in your consciousness and you rest in that, the function of that love radiates out from you and induces the world into spontaneously shifting, just as the function of anger or fear does the exact same thing. The same laws apply, whether whether using the energy of love or the energy of fear. Same laws apply. Always. Always, always, always. Hi. Hi. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed from one state to another. Your emotions follow the exact same laws. The exact same laws. Emotion cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one state to another. It's that simple. That's it. And without you guys here asking these questions, nobody would ever know these answers. Without you asking questions, there would be no answers. Yeah, I know you care about them. Yes, love is natural. It truly is. There we go. Hi. We're all caught up there. We're all caught up here. Uh, oh, you're very welcome, Lauren. Yes, you got it. Your anxiety went away just like that, right? See, anxiety, depression, happiness, sadness, joy, they are all emotional energy. Emotional energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one state to another. I love you all. Thank you for coming out. Go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, register for Masterclass 102. You've only got about another 20 days left to register. It will be a wondrous journey for us all. I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great time. Have a wonderful day. Take what you learned. It's not Tara. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tara, if you can, go to my website, book a reading with me. Because there's a lot there. Because I'm getting the energy of a young child, an unborn child. I'm getting the energy of it's not conceived, but it's the energy of an unborn child waiting, been waiting, trying to communicate with you, waiting for acceptance. But I don't want to get into it beyond that. Again, go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, sign up for Masterclass 102, or book a session with me. Either one of those will get you to the truth that you're seeking. That I can promise you that. And if you don't get what you expected, you will find yourself getting your money back. We'll give you your money back. It's that simple. Yep. Yeah. There. Thank you. Again, you ask a question, I get a download of information. It's like I don't get just the one answer. I get like a volume of answers and information about you and your unique situation. That's what mediumship allows when you can receive. Everybody knows the term downloads. So when you ask a question, I get that, but with that question, it's like a post-it note on a big volume of information. That's why we do these live shows, so that we can at least give you a little bit, at least a little. I love you all, and I thank you all for coming out today. I'll look forward to seeing TikTok family tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll hang out for a while on TikTok at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I want to wish all of you much, 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 much love. And I'll see you guys on the Wednesday edition of Shortcut Through Soul at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Toronto. Bye, everybody.